Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, a podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, a state of the game and community news. We are streaming live at Twitch TV/3D6 Charge every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, where you can follow and subscribe. And we're anywhere you can also find podcasts such as Spotify or iTunes. This is episode 16? 16. Episode 16, New Marines and Necrons. I am your host, Chris Vo, and joining me today is Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hey everyone, now featuring a camera.
Yes, finally we got Benjamin a camera. And we were off the last couple of weeks. Had some, family things come up, and then I don't even know what it was last week. I just couldn't make it. But I had an MRI. Yeah, that's why. Since then we've got basically all of the new Marine and Necron codexes out that have been leaked. We all know that review copies went out, but they've just basically been out in the wild now, and they release officially on Saturday. And looking through it, I think what most people want to talk about or hear about right now is going to be what changed to Space Marines. What did GW do to maybe rein in Space Marines a little bit and make the game 40k and not 30k? So, first things first, aggressors are dead, more or less. They're still very scary as white scars, but seeing and still scary as salamanders, they're just not aggressively broken. They lost their double shoot and they lost their advance and shoot without penalty. Benjamin, you got any thoughts on that?
I actually disagree a little bit. I don't think they're dead. They're certainly going to see much less play out of Ultramarines, which is to say probably none. But I think the place where they were the scariest, which was Salamanders, we're still going to see them being played. The Salamander Chapter Master received he's not actually their Chapter Master. He's like their Forge Master. Their Forge something. Vulcan. Yeah, he received a slight nerf. So his new ability is at the beginning of the command phase. He picks one unit, and that unit re-rolls all hits and wounds with Flamer and Melta weapons. And the fact that still exists means that they're still excellent. And even without that ability, even not double shooting, they didn't lose any shots. So 6 of them showing up, walking onto the battlefield. Still make 12 shots a model. They get +1 to wound still because it's still a flamer weapon. I don't think we're going to be seeing the 10, 15 in a list anymore, although 15 was kind of on its way out anyway. We'll still see 6. I think that 6 is still the correct number to bring in any Salamanders list. With the flamers, because the big thing is that the flamers went up to 12 inches. So you don't need to mess around with any successor chapter things. You can just be all right, we're playing true Salamanders. I can just bring the flamers, hit you out of deep strike more easily because you have an inch more than you used to have, even with long range marksman. And you get to bring all the Salamander special characters. Vulcan, like I said, rerolls all.
Adrax
all
is really
wounds.
good as well.
And then Adrax is incredible. Adrax is a captain he's a Primaris Thunderhammer captain. So still the only one who can do that, with a damage 4 Thunderhammer that kept the AP3 through the Thunderhammer nerf. And also, his Warlord trait is Flamer weapons can re-roll the number of shots they make if they're within 6 of them. So he's perfectly happy to walk around with a bunch of aggressors. Even if you don't want to pop the strap for max shots, he still lets them get way higher than average shots, and he gives them +1 to wound on the charge. Yep. Not that they really needed it in strength 8. So yeah, I think that we will still see aggressors.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But fewer of them, and they'll be a little bit less efficient. But don't think that's a huge nerf to Salamanders, because other things got a lot better for them, and the way they got less efficient is a lot of the stratagems that Salamanders are using to break them just don't work anymore. So it's not like it's way worse. It's a little worse. They can't spend the CP on them to make them super efficient, but that just means they can spend the command points in other places. So it's not that bad. They just have the command points to do other things with other units, which I'm sure we will talk about momentarily.
Yeah. One of the other things that we saw, speaking of salamanders, is eradicators. Eradicators are now a 3 to 6 unit, right? 3 to 6.
Yep, 3 to 6.
Yeah. So, and they didn't touch eradicators. Points wise, they only did a slight rules adjustment on them, in which, when you advance, you can't do the double shooting thing.
No, it's actually better than that. They reworked that rule. It used to be when you shoot, you shot the weapon twice, and now it's when you're done shooting the weapon, you can shoot it again at the same target. This sounds like the same thing, but it's actually very important because this means that salamanders get to do another wound reroll. It used to be you'd shoot all 6 of your shots with no wound rerolls, or with one wound reroll, but now you shoot 3 shots with one wound reroll, and then you shoot
twice.
3 more shots.
I got you. I got you. So it's kind of like a slight nerf in that you don't get the double shots after advancing, which was good for like white scars, but it's kind of a slight low key buff for salamanders because you're getting that extra reroll in there for your wound roll.
Yeah. Also, a really important note: they got combat squads, so if you bring 6 of them, you can still split them up into 2 3s.
Yep, and same thing with blade guard vets, which again, no points adjustment. They just went up to 3 to 6 models in a unit. If you don't plan on stuffing 5 of them in an impulsor with a character, then you can just bring 6 of them, and if you're going up against blast weapons, you can combat squad them.
Yeah. Another important thing with the salamanders, or I keep calling it eradicators, but salamanders is where we're usually afraid of them, is that they have 2 new weapon options. The first one is for 5 points a model. Anyone in the squad can take a heavy melter rifle, which is heavy instead of assault, and just has natively +2 damage, and goes to D6 +4 within half range, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
And also, 1 in every 3 models can take a multi-melta. Which is, just twice as many shots. A little bit worse because it's heavy instead of assault. But both of those options are actually really good in Ultramarines. I actually expect to see a lot of Eradicators in Ultramarines because they can show up on the sidelines without having to worry about moving and shooting penalties. So I suspect if you ever see the Ultramarine lists are all going to swap over to the heavy version of Eradicators, and they're going to be really scary.
Yeah, I also anticipate seeing some White Scars play with that as well because of the... one of the White Scar stratagems just lets you count rapid fire and heavy weapons as assault for that shooting phase, and being White Scars, they don't get the penalty to moving and shooting, so you're still hitting on 3s.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. There has been some other things like impulsors losing fly, repulsors losing fly, but
yep,
those were like the really big ones out of the main codex.
Yeah, most of the Space Marine vehicles weren't seeing a ton of play at the high end, with the exception of impulsors, which actually ate a couple of nerfs. They lost fly, and their invulnerable save went from a 4 up to a 5 up.
Yeah, that is rough.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be seeing a lot more people walking around.
I still think you're going to see impulsors. I think they're still priced to move. Losing fly and going from a 4 up to a 5 up invul is a big blow, but again, I still think they're priced to move. K-Leeb in the chat saying box dreads. Yeah, box dreads actually had a big change. I can't believe we just glossed over box dreads.
Wow.
They all have Duty Eternal baked in now, and they're all core units, so they can benefit from reroll auras.
Yeah, amusingly, I think that the meta is going to be sort of self, like that seems excellent, but I can't imagine wanting to put that many box dreads on the table, and the fact that my opponent can just like show up with 12 Eradicators, and I don't know, my Dreadnoughts just can never survive. That being said, the Primaris Dreadnought, the Redemptor, has 13, 14 wounds, and it also has baked in Duty Eternal. That just seems real good.
Yeah, it does. And I wasn't huge on the Redemptor before. I think it was just priced a little bit too out of range to really be effective, especially with the prevalence of just, when everybody's spent basically all of 8th edition tooling up to one round a night, what is a 13 wound Dreadnought with no invul has no chance. So
I think that they were like, -1 damage taken away from being good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the stupid ass Iron Hands Dread, being invincible, and but a big part of that was, the Duty Eternal. Granted, back then it was having damage, but it's
Yeah,
still really good.
yeah.
Just -1.
Yeah, also keep in mind for Iron Hands specifically, their dreadnoughts are still gonna be great because they can still make character dreadnoughts, or just one, and then they can also then take a second dreadnought and use the Iron Stone on it and make it -2 damage per attack, which is kind of silly. And then if you don't want to try it, just heal 3 wounds. And yeah, so we'll see. We'll probably see some dreadnought play out of Iron Hands.
Yeah. We'll see some dreadnought play. We're still not going to see any vehicles really because meltaguns are still a thing and eradicators are still ridiculous.
Yeah, your vehicles are going to have to either be cheap enough that you don't care if they get popped, or somehow durable enough that they can survive 3 to 6 eradicators going into them, or your army needs to be constructed in such a way where you can be screening eradicators out, which is possible.
But it's just a lot more
range.
difficult than it would be if they were just regular melta guns and not melta rifles.
Yeah, it's the 24-inch range is hard.
Right. One of the other, speaking of anti-armor options, one of the big changes was grav cannons. Grav cannon devastators, not really a thing anymore. It's just flat 2 damage, and there's no grav amp stratagem which let you re-roll wound rolls and damage rolls anymore. So while the flat 2 does help a lot in terms of smoothing out that variance, a big part of that was the re-rolling your wound rolls because it's only a strength 5 weapon. So now when I see it, it's basically a heavy bolter with more AP and 1 more shot.
Yeah, it loses 22% of its damage output approximately.
If you want a Space Marine killer though, like grav cannons are
they'll kill Space Marines, but I don't think we're going to see grav cannons see any play. Honestly, I think the whole Devastator unit's kind of just gone right now because if you're going to take Melta, like why is it not an Eradicator? And Las Cannon's just kind of not where this edition's at.
Right. Like I had thought about it. Like, all right, what if I just like pop like a bunch of multi Meltas into a drop pod? Well, multi Melta is like plus 20 points as opposed to the grav cannon's 10 points, and when you're looking at a base price of 18, you're paying 38 points for a Devastator with a multi Melta times 4. It starts getting real pricey real fast, and it's at that gets to the point where you've got the drop pod and you've got the 4 multi Melta guys, and you're like, why didn't I just take 6 Eradicators instead?
Yeah. The one place I might see devs being used outside of a drop pod is just a bunch of heavy bolters.
Yeah, I do like the heavy bolter idea.
Bunch of dudes, heavy bolters.
Not necessarily with the drop pod, but
no, I think they just walk. 36 inches is pretty good.
Yeah, they don't need the drop pod. They're not that big of a threat where they're going to be alpha struck every time, and 36-inch range is enough to get you there. And do Devastators have the rule that lets them ignore the penalty to shooting and moving heavy?
Nope, that's only Havocs. So a couple other changes that I think we should go over before we jump into the main meat of this episode are the fight twice stratagem. It has been moved to only assault intercessors, which is just a nerf to every non-assault intercessor melee unit and melee character in the whole book, which is significant. That was one of the things that made some of these really gross melee units scary, is that they'd go into something, grind it to dust, go into the thing behind it, murder that too, and then end up like 6 to 8 inches away from where they ended their first charge and touching things you didn't want them to be touching in melee. And that's just gone now. They get to pile in, fight, consolidate, and they're done.
Yeah, you can't rely on just weight of dice anymore. You really gotta, if you want your melee units to really hit that efficiency, since you can't fight twice now, you really gotta you gotta think ahead and try to get those buffs on your melee unit, if you want to get your chaplain in there or your captain or your lieutenant or whatever the hell you want. You can't just be like, fuck it, 3 CP, they're just gonna blow through whatever I didn't kill the first time.
Yep. And the last change that I think is probably worth talking before we jump to the next thing is that Smash captains were already on their way out and they got hit with the vaunted GW triple nerf. So now they're probably just completely dead. So Thunderhammers got nerfed from AP3 down to AP2. The reroll aura no longer affects them. and only in death does duty end no longer works if you fought in the same phase. Right. So they've lost any chance of ever double fighting because they can't fight when they die if they've already fought, and they can't double fight naturally with the honor of the chapter. They have less armor penetration. They don't reroll their dice. You can spend 40 points to make them a chapter master to make them reroll their hit rolls, but then your smash captain costs 180 points, and he only makes like 5 attacks. He's trading down. And he's also like your chapter master. It just seems like all downside to me. I just don't see smash captains being a thing anymore.
I mean, the slam master, he could potentially do work, but I mean, like, the thing is, since he can't fight twice, you're really only throwing him at like very hard armored targets. And when you think about that, you're already struggling because it's AP -2 now instead of AP 3, and you're probably realistically going to get the most value out of him, like throwing him at like some sort of vehicle, which again, eradicators are a thing. Why wouldn't you just use your chapter master ability on the eradicators instead?
You know, I think there's just so many better choices for killing tough targets in melee.
Yeah, you can do it. It's just a matter of like, why would you? You know, I just think that there's just you're not going to get that ROI on making him a slam master.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with a lot of the things in the Marine Codex is that it's like almost 100 different data sheets now. So there's very few things in there that are actually bad. Like there's very few data sheets where like your opponent puts this like thing across the table from you. You're like, you made a bad choice. Like it's fine. Everything in that book is fine. Most things in that book would be excellent in other codexes. But when you have 100 choices, not all of them can be the best thing. And you know, Marines aren't like this weird, tricky army. Like they're dudes in armor with big guns and big swords. Like they don't get super fancy in the base unit rules. Some of the chapters do some pretty neat things. At some point, just like there are things that are better at the same role than other things. So very few things are bad, but like chapter master's not, or the smash captain's not bad, but he's just not the best thing in his role anymore.
You can just have him do more effective things. Like you can still take the same unit, but he can just be more effective in another role. You know, it's not just like the suicide mission, like, you know, guided missile that he was before.
All right. So now that we've talked about Space Marines a bunch, I think we should move on to our next thing. How about you?
Yeah. So do you want to talk about crons, or do you want to talk some lists?
Let's talk about some lists. Let's talk about some Space Marine lists. So lots of different, you know, podcasts, YouTube channels, various things of media have like gone through point by point on the Space Marine book. So we felt that we're going to do it a little differently. We've each written a couple of different lists, and we're going to talk about why we think this list is going to be great and why we want to test this list, and also potentially like things we can be looking at to try out like different variations on the list. So the first list we're going to talk about are Space Marines. So Chris, you want to present your first list?
The other day, GW released like all of their indices for the non-compliant chapters of Space Marines. You know, your Space Wolves, your Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Death Watch, and am I missing one? I'm definitely missing one. Whatever. The real thing that Death Watch, the real winner out of these is the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels suddenly just vaunted up to like the top spot, and it's because of some pretty bonkers rules that GW gave to the Deathwing and the Ravenwing. So for those of you who may not know, brief overview, Deathwing is the first company. They're all Terminators. The Ravenwing is like the second company of the Dark Angels, and they're all like speedy, fast boys on bikes. And oh my god, Omar is here.
Yeah, basically anything in Terminator armor is Deathwing, and anything on a bike or a land speeder or an airplane is Ravenwing.
Yeah, so basically one of the rules that GW gave to the Deathwing Terminators in the Index is baked in transhuman physiology for everything, ridiculous. Basically. So what I did, and if you guys want to take a look at these, you can type exclamation point lists in the chat, and it'll bring you to like a paste bin where, you know, this is all actually written out, so I'm not just shouting numbers at you. But basically
And the really silly thing about this is that transhuman got changed to Primaris only. So normal Terminators just have no access to it unless you're Deathwing, in which case you get it for free.
You get it for free across your Deathwing Knights, your Deathwing Terminators, your Deathwing characters. If you take the Deathwing Command Squad with
really
Belial, then the Command Squad doesn't take up a slot, and the Apothecary and the Champion don't take up slots. So basically, this list is just a single Vanguard list of Dark Angels with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elite choices, and Belial as the sole HQ. And basically it's just a fuck ton of Terminators with a 1-up, 4-up save, all have 3 wounds apiece, and it's just a shitload of tough things that you can't ever wound on a 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, shall I go through the list?
Yeah, so like I said, the one HQ is Belial. He's the what is he, like the captain of the Death Watch?
Yeah, he's the captain of that company. Yeah, he's the company captain for the Deathwing.
Yeah. So, and you know, if you take him as the warlord, you got to be the brilliant strategist warlord trait, which in the new codex lets you step back in the doctrines with a specific unit, right? Remember?
Yep. It's real good.
Yeah, which is pretty good. The first elite choice is just a 5-man of Deathwing Command Squad, which nothing's fancy here. Everybody's got a Stormbolter. Regular guys have a Power Fist. Sergeant has a Power Sword. But that doesn't take up a detachment slot because Belial's your HQ. And because you have the Command Squad, you can now take the Deathwing Apothecary, which doesn't take up a detachment slot. You make him a Chief Apothecary for 15 more points, which makes him a super duper like amazing character Apothecary, which heals 3 wounds every time and costs 0 CP to raise the dude back from the dead to full health. You know,
and gives 6-up feel no pains,
and gives a feel no pain.
Wow,
a 6-up feel no pain aura.
Yeah, Chief Apothecary I think is a mistake because it's not an option. It's just a thing you have to do.
For 15 points, if you're not doing Chief Apothecary, you are fucking up.
Yeah, I believe they're 25, but
no, it's 15.
Either way, is it really? Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they give 6 apothecaries just give 6 of feeling pains in general, and then the reanimate guys got moved to a stratagem that costs 1 command point to reanimate a model automatically without a dice roll. But if you're chief apothecary, that stratagem costs 0 command points. So they can actually heal a unit and also reanimate a guy all in the same turn. So he's bringing up to like 5 wounds of Terminator back a turn, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's topping them up a lot. Next unit is a Deathwing Champion, which you pay another 15 points to make him a chapter champion with you can give him the Martial Exemplar Warlord trait. Basically, this guy's just a 95-point blender who is going to murder not just characters, but really anything that he touches. You just never really saw him before because he's in the Dark Angels Codex. Yeah. Though the one thing in this list, which I'm about to go over next, that is a character but does take up a detachment and isn't in the index but is in the main Space Marine book is the Ancient and Terminator armor, which if you're Dark Angels, you take him, he gets the Deathwing keyword. He just doesn't get the built-in transhuman.
Yeah,
but
circle, yeah.
Again, you pay for the chapter command upgrade, which is like 20 points to make him a chapter ancient, and then you give him the relic Pennant of Remembrance, which gives him a 6-inch 5-up feel no pain aura. So all of these super tough Terminators that you already can't wound on a 1, 2, or 3 also ignores wounds on a 5-up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then to round it out, you've got 2 5-mans of regular Deathwing Terminators, which again, Power Fists, 1 Power Sword, Stormbolters, and then 2 10-man units of Deathwing Knights. All of them got Storm Shields. They all got that fucking 3 damage mace, and they all got... And the Sergeant has the Flail, which is like 2 damage, and the damage spills over. And because they're 10-man units, if you really need to, or you just feel the need to, you can combat squad them out into 4 5-man units of Deathwing Knights.
Yeah, this is scary. Is that all 6 of your elite slots? Do you know how many other slots left?
That is 9 elite slots. No, 8 elite slots.
Right, but some of them don't take up.
Yeah,
right,
so
one,
that's actually
2,
only
3,
5 elite slots.
All right. So you have 40 points left in this list, right?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I fucked up somewhere. But like, I feel like at 40 points under, that's enough wiggle room where like if I messed up here or there, this list will more or less stay the same.
Fair enough. If you do actually have those 40 points, bring a unit of servitors. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, if there are any leftover points, like yeah, just servitors, toss them onto your backline objectives that aren't going to be touched, or use them for something dumb like that one secondary where you're like scanning things in the middle of the board.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's only two things that kind of jump out at me that I would kind of want to try and change about this list. Which would be, I'd love to spend a command point on that Terminator Ancient to bring that the Deathwing Warlord trait, where once per game you just automatically deny a psychic power.
Yeah, so if I were to change something, I would probably drop the Martial Exemplar, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is a reroll charges aura. I might want to do that auto deny because you mentioned this before. Like, if you get a Death Hex on one of these units, they're just dead.
They could be a lot, yeah, like Death Hex or Jinx or Doom. Like, there's a lot of powers where like your opponent's gonna have a big turn, like, this power is gonna go off and I'm dead.
Yeah,
I've played against that exact Warlord trait before in a Thousand Suns list. It's kind of fun. I was bringing Magnus the Red, and my opponent used it to prevent Magnus from warp timing himself back. So he ended up just like sitting in front of a bunch of Deathwing Terminators getting charged.
Yeah, never underestimate the power of a clutch deny. Especially if you're Black Templars or War Leaders and you got that Scorn of Sorcery type stratagem where you just deny it flat out on a 4-up. That is almost just as good as, this Warlord trait that we're talking about for the Ancient here.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, his actually doesn't care about range either. So there's just no like.
It's just on the board.
I thought my understanding of his is it just basically says no.
Yeah, it's just one. Yeah. So it's not like you can even outplay it, because oftentimes what you see with lists like that is like that power is coming from somewhere where you just like your psychers are out of range, and he can still just be like, I'm not interacting with that. Yeah, this is great. It's also be pretty exciting when the full codex comes out for them, and you're going to be able to buy mastercrafted weapons for one of those sergeants, those Deathwing Knights. Now, one sergeant will have a 3 damage weapon that spills over. He can kill an entire guard squad by himself. That just makes me happy.
Yep. Let's see. If I'm reading the trait now, yeah, the trait is called Watched. Yeah. If your warlord is not, even if your warlord is not within 24 inches, you auto deny once per battle. That is so fucking clutch.
That is absurd. Yeah.
Yeah. So this list is obviously taking huge advantage of the fact that not only are that Terminators are up to 3 wounds, that's just true across the board, but then also here they have transhuman. So even the high damage or high strength, high AP weaponry that you normally want to use against them is probably not as strong.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to take this list into my tabletop simulator league and going to enjoy this for the next month and a half until it flies too close to the sun.
Yeah, what kind of secondaries do you think is looking to take? Because I do see it struggling a little bit with the mission. It's going to survive fairly well. It's going to be pretty killy, but you have no OBSEC and very low unit and model count. So some of the secondaries might be tough for you.
They are going to be tough. I don't, if I have the points for the servitor ones, and then I'm just going to pick one of those secondaries where you have to do an action with a unit. Otherwise, I don't think I could afford doing an action with one of these units unless it's maybe a unit of Deathwing Knights and I'm nowhere near melee range.
Yeah. So you can actually do an action and make melee attacks. You just can't. I just don't think you can charge in the same turn.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If I'm advancing and I just get on a thing where I can do an action, it's going to depend on the mission. But generally speaking, I want to try to get full output out of all of these units every turn that I can. So I'm probably going to focus more on,
killing
and board control. And the OBSEC thing, that's a valid concern. But if you just position your dudes right, they can't get to the objective and contest it with OBSEC if they just can't get to the objective.
Yeah, I think, I was just about to say that. Yeah, like Caleb said in the chat, I think Oath of Moment, which is a Space Marine secondary, you do 3 different things every turn, are going to be really good for this list. One of them is don't fail a morale test, which your whole army's real close to immune to morale anyway, because I think, if I remember correctly, the Inner Circle also manipulates morale in some way.
Yeah, I think it's just like you never take the combat attrition test, and then you're all like leadership like 9 anyway.
Yeah, so that's just like 5 points right there for free because you're never failing a morale test. And then also you get 2 points for occupying the center of the table, and this is one more way of getting points, which I forget. But that one seems like pretty free. And then after that, you are low unit count, but you're just pushing into your opponent's face. So I could see like engage in all fronts or
yeah, I would
like
take
that.
engage. And in terms of changing around this list, I could see a case for taking like a chaplain on a bike as Raven Wings, just so I can get like that close up teleport.
Oh right, I forgot about that. Oh, because he's Raven Wing. That's I didn't even think about that. That's so good that you can use that on a character. Oh, that's disgusting. For those of you who don't know, if you have a Raven Wing unit on the table and a Deathwing unit is deep striking in, you can spend, I think it's 2 command points,
2 CP
to have the Deathwing unit deep strike within 6 inches of the Raven Wing unit and outside of engagement range, or outside of 6 inches.
Outside of 6 inches of enemy models,
right.
And you can still charge.
Yeah, it gives them a 6-inch charge instead of a 9-inch charge, which is huge.
Yeah, so I think that might be worth it. Yeah, so very excited to try that. Very excited that I can do it on Tabletop Sim where I don't have to buy 45 Terminators
and build them and paint them.
I have a friend who I think owns 20 Deathwing Terminators already, so that's a little scary that he doesn't have very far to go to this.
Every person who's been like holding water for Dark Angels since whenever is very, very happy. You kept the faith. This is your reward.
All right. Omar, want to talk to us about Ultramarines?
Yeah, so my Ultramarines list has gone through a few iterations, and I've played this list a bunch of times with success. A caveat was I forgot that I put in 2 units of Blade Guard veterans, and I was only playing with 1, so I was playing with a 100-point handicap, and this list was and it still did really well.
Sure.
But basically, you've got Goleman, because not taking him is dumb in this edition, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah, he's in editions past, I would say he's not an auto take, but between Victrix Guard, his mobility, and a smaller board, he's an auto take now. Mm-hmm. It's kind of absurd how powerful he is.
Right. We always knew that Gilliman was like a melee murder machine. It's just that you never did that in the last edition because you would just hang out and just take advantage of his super auras.
Yeah. Well, now
just walk away from you.
Yeah, and as of now, this is an edition that encourages melee. It's an edition that encourages get in your face, and all of his auras come into play even more. His +1 to charge for all Imperium and +1 to advance is bonkers, and it really does add up. And having everyone and his Imperium and his 12-inch aura didn't change, so any Imperium unit still gets reroll 1.
And that includes characters who kind of lost that from the core changes.
Yeah, but characters still get the Chapter Master reroll from him.
Oh, really? That's incredible.
Yeah, that's like Goleman
is he an old school Chapter Master or just an aura? Or
he's an old school Chapter Master.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
aura and character.
Everyone else. That's neat.
Yeah. So I've got the Indominus Captain and the Indominus Lieutenant, and the Captain has the Imperium Sword Train. I've got a squad of 10 Assault Intercessors, 2 Incursors, and 5 Intercessors with Stalker Bolts. Realistically, I might end up reducing the size of the Assault Intercessors and replacing the Stalker Bolt guys with some Heavy Intercessors.
Yes, they're so good.
Yeah. As Chris can attest, Stalker Bolts are pretty great, especially if you do the strat, like you pay the 3 CP to target characters. They do way more work.
They don't get that anymore.
And I think,
Target sighted is gone.
Oh, that's true. It is gone.
Yeah, that's gone. But hey,
I'll take an extra rune and extra toughness.
Bring heavy ones. They're strength 5.
Yeah,
and you get an extra rune and extra toughness.
And their special weapon is ridiculous. The special Stalker Bolt Rifle weapon is 2 shots, strength 5, AP2, flat 3 damage. It's
that. So in my elites, I've got the Victrix Honor Guard and 2 sets of Blade Guard. And the way this list is built is you've got your one round of Blade Guard goes with a Captain and Lieutenant, and they're just charging in somewhere. I'm comfortable that they will chop through whatever they need to. The Captain can hurt things, the Lieutenant can hurt things, while they're not giving each other, while characters aren't getting the rerolls they used to, the Blade Guard are. Now, with the change to how auras work, I actually might keep them with Guilliman so they do get rerolls. And then you've got the Victrix Guard and another set of Blade Guard with Guilliman. And they kind of go in two directions off the board. And that way you have two big threats to deal with. And then I've got an Eradicator squad because why not? They can shoot things, they're a threat, they exist, they function. So there's no reason not to take them. But where the meat of this list comes in is actually in Inceptor squads. Because Ultramarines can reroll ones with a strat, I'm comfortable taking the Plasma guy. Two units of 4 Bolter Inceptors and 1 unit of 4 Plasma. And these guys drop wherever they're needed. So if Guilliman's in one section of the board, so in one of the games Chris and I had, Guilliman and my Blade Guard made it to one section of the board, and they're going to deal with whatever was there. I mean, Guilliman alone was enough. But he still had the vast majority of his army fairly spread out, and my Inceptors could drop in and start doing work on them. So being able to pay a CP to reroll ones, especially on Plasma, it's good anti-tank at a pinch, but it's also one of those things, at least from what I've been seeing and what my thought process is you can clear things out. If someone's got a horde, it's a lot of shots. But also with the assault bolters, it's the same thing. It's S5, it's AP2 when they drop. So they're going to chew through a lot of bodies, even Marine bodies. The other side of it is, when I was playing, a friend of mine plays Sisters of Battle. When I was running this list, there was a point where I got my Inceptors down on the ground. It cleared out a good chunk of chaff, but I made a point of leaving the girls who were on the objective. You had a squad of five of their troops on the objective, and I charged them with 2 Inceptors. Now I got lucky and made both charges. Don't get me wrong, but there was enough going on there. There was enough damage going through that I could take the objective off of them. So they're this really precise knife that comes in and hits whatever it needs to. And if I need a really precise hammer, that's where the Plasma guy.
Yeah, I was when 9th edition came out and the new chapter proof came out. I was really big on Plasma Inceptors, especially as Ultramarines, just for exactly what you said. They're a pretty damn good plasma delivery system that especially against anything that's going to be vulnerable to blast. Which, let's be real, nobody's taking anything above 5 men on a unit anymore. But if they did, then it'd be vulnerable to blast. The only thing that that gives me pause about this list are the Bolter Inceptors, and not because they're not good. It's just that once I think we start seeing more heavy intercessors in play. Yeah, it's strength 5. Yeah, it's -2. But you're still fighting an uphill battle. You're going to struggle to deal with those heavy intercessors, even if you are rerolling ones.
I agree. And I think that's where I might end up dropping a squad of Bolter Inceptors and replacing them with Plasma. Because there is a lot of anti-horde in this list anyway. But as the game stands today, where we don't have the heavy intercessor kit around, I think this does a lot of work. The other side of it, though, is the assault intercessors. I've got a squad of 10 at the moment, and those guys do a ton of work. If they're within 12 inches of Guilliman's aura, which with a smaller board they can be pretty reasonably, they get a +1 to their charge, so they'll make a charge if they're positioned properly. But where they really shine is I can pay 2 CP to give them reroll all hits, and another CP for Gene-Lock Might, and I'll fish for 6s.
Yeah, fishing for 6s is pretty good. I would love to have that sort of ability as White Scars in the Assault Doctrine, just because I'm fishing for auto wounds with 2 damage. But the downside I see to Assault Intercessors and Ultramarines is just they can't advance and charge, which sucks. Otherwise, they'd be great. They go from a good unit to a great unit.
Yeah. One thing I'm not seeing is there a relic in this list that I'm just not seeing?
No, there's no relic.
Okay, so you're running like Seal of Oath or something?
I'm not even running Seal of Oath because Guilliman's my warlord.
Right, you still could bring a relic.
You can bring a relic.
Yeah, I could bring Seal of Oath, but at least what I'm finding with this meta is it's hard for me to say, okay, this is
but like it's free. Like you should bring a relic somewhere.
How's it free?
Because you always get a free relic.
Because you get a free relic. Your warlord is Gilliman, you get a relic.
If your warlord is anybody, you get a free relic from that book.
Come on, Omar. He is an Ultramarine. Another Ultramarines character gets to have a relic. Give someone the Seal of Oath.
Yes, then that is my bad.
What are you doing?
I have been playing a very handicapped version of this list with more success than I should have.
Down 100 points, threw a relic away. It's fine.
But it's a powerful list. I've won the majority of games I've played with that list. The games I've lost have really come down to bad deployment on my part and like misplaying the list.
And being short of full reroll all to hit and all the wounds, relic perhaps could have helped.
No, it wouldn't have made a huge difference. Actually, that's the worst part.
In fairness, I did the same thing when I was building some Necron lists with the Silent King. I was like, wait a moment, no, he's the warlord. I got to bring a relic.
But the entire point of this list is it doesn't do anything specific. White Scars list charge, Imperial Fists shoot, Blood Angels charge, Dark Angels don't die now apparently. Salamanders burn you alive and don't die. This one doesn't have I can't tell you what this list does because it doesn't necessarily have.
It does a little bit of everything. Which let's be real, that's what Ultramarines are for.
Well, no, and it is a surprisingly fluffy list. That's all Primaris.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's a good all-rounder. Gilman can definitely protect your gun line, and along with the Blade Guard vets, you're pretty good at bullying people off of points with mid-range firepower and the classic melee units with no delivery system that are becoming more viable in 9th edition.
Yeah, and it's in another iteration of this list. I'd actually have eliminators, but I don't want them anymore. So I just up my plasma presence, so to speak.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bummer because I do like eliminators a fair amount, but they're just not as good as they were. Yeah, this list just kind of does a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And in terms of your relic, I might even say maybe you should go for the Sanctic Halo, just because you have no way of denying psychic powers.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that. I might do another relic that might buff up my captain even more.
Yeah, he's also less death bally than your list though. I don't know if
also less what
you're less death bally. You don't have a big unit like this is the guy your biggest guy is Gilman, but he just has character protection. So it's not like if something gets jinxed or doomed. It's I've lost the game. It's the most. I think your biggest unit outside of Gilman is 10 Assault Intercessors.
Yeah. So having played against this list a couple of times, I can say that while Gilman is a big part of the game plan, and he is a big scary dude, and his shooting is actually surprisingly good. Even if you deal with Gilliman and his Assault Intercessors and his Victrix Guard, very often the way that you can play this list is you can have that Indominus Captain, that Indominus Lieutenant, and your Blade Guard, on the complete other side of the board, and they're their own their own self-contained, half army right there, and you can't ignore it because they're gonna keep coming at you, and you can't just take pot shots at them with pistols and hope that you deal with it that way because they all have storm shields and they all have more than 3 wounds.
All right, it's time to talk about our new metal overlords.
Yes, let's talk about our new metal ancient overlords who have always been there for us since before the Emperor was even a twinkle in somebody's eye.
Couple big changes to the Necron Codex. The biggest change is that it's playable now. It was playable
before. There was just literally just one viable build.
Now I think it is very similar to Space Marines, where you're going to be at a tournament and your buddy's going to go, man, I just got smashed by Necrons. And you're going to be like, okay, what list? Because there's going to be, 12, 15 different lists, and they're all so different from each other. It's not just there's Necrons. Every dynasty is completely unique. Some of the custom dynasties are completely viable and also very unique. The way they split up the buffs in the book, there's sort of the synoptic sphere of buffs, the destroyer sphere of buffs, and then the core sphere of buffs. Core for them is immortals, warriors, the bikers whose names I can never remember off the top of my head, and Lich Guard. and all like and like between the three, like none shall meet. Like there's like very few buffs, very few, that like actually work on all of these things. And so like right there, that's like list differences. They have melee options that are good now. They have good vehicles, but you don't have to bring the vehicles. You could absolutely just be like, I'm gonna bring no vehicles. They're also one of the few armies in the current meta that have Lords of War that might be playable. Like right now, Knights are just not gonna do very much.
No.
But the Silent King is a Lord of War, and he plays like a Lord of War, and he's very good. Like you could,
Chris, what was your
put him on the table.
Your analogy for the Silent King?
All right, so in our group chat, my analogy for the Silent King was the Silent King was like if Gilliman was a Street Fighter 2 character, and then they redesigned him as the Silent King for Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix.
Yeah, he does everything. So that being said, Chris, want to jump us into our first list?
Yeah, so let's talk about this Necron list. So right off the bat, we got 14 command points to work with because in our Supreme Command detachment, we got the embodiment of Big Dick Energy himself, the Silent King. And then for your battalion, you're doing a custom dynasty. You're doing the ones with the 6-up invul and the 6-inch pregame move. And for your HQs, you're bringing the command barge, the mini croissant. You're giving an extra warlord trait to that guy, enduring will, and you're giving him the voltaic staff relic. Your other HQ for this battalion is gonna no, this isn't a battalion. This is a patrol.
This is a battalion.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? There's two. Oh no, wait, I'm reading this wrong. Sorry, I can't even read my own fucking notes. So your second battalion HQ is Caesaris, which has that sweet new model as well, and you've got one unit of 20 warriors. One unit of 19 warriors. Sorry, it's 19 because of points. With the regular rapid fire Gauss weapons, and then two 20-man warriors with the assault Gauss weapons, the Reapers. You got a unit of 10 Triarch Praetorians with the staves, a unit of Crypto Thralls, then you've got a Ghost Arc, and then
that's it.
Yeah. Resurrection, is it reanimation or resurrection? RP.
Reanimation protocols.
Reanimation protocols is really good for Necron warriors. Necron warriors are actually fucking playable now because of reanimation protocols. Because every time you shoot at them, after your shooting is done, some of them just get right the fuck back up. So
yeah,
and it's gonna be, you gotta bring enough DACA to not just one turn them like you would like, oh, I can bring 6 eradicators or enough like laser cannons to one turn a night. You got a one activation a unit of Necron warriors to reliably take them out.
Yeah, so warriors also reroll ones on their reanimation protocols, which is like really extreme. And beyond that, the way it works is when you're done shooting or you're done fighting, every dead guy rolls a d6, and on a 5-up, they just join back in with the unit. If they have multiple wounds, you roll a d6 equal to the wounds characteristics of models that were killed, and you need to bring whole models back. So if you kill 3 3-wound units, I would roll 9 dice. If I got 4 successes, 1 guy would come back, and that last wound kind of is just lost. Unlike old reanimation protocols, you only roll for 1 unit at it, for the guys who died from that attack. There's no more rolling for the whole unit. But also so if you kill the whole unit, they don't get to do it. But unlike a Feel No Pain, they don't care how hard you kill them. Like if you hit him with a damage 4, Relic Thunderhammer, like 1 5-up, he's back on his feet. It's not like the Death Guard that you hit them with multi-damage weapons and they kind of just fall apart because they need to make multiple Feel No Pains in a row. It's like, now 1 die, 1 success, back on their feet.
Yeah, and this combined with Necrons all being like leadership 10 makes them, like if you were going to bring Plasma Inceptors, this is the unit to bring them against.
Also the guys who come back don't count against morale. If you kill a guy and he comes back, he does not count against morale.
Yeah.
Big change.
Necrons are like virtually immune to morale anyway.
Yeah, the last big change that was super important is the way you used to beat reanimation protocols is you just wrap them up. because they couldn't come in within an inch of you. They are now allowed to reanimate in engagement range of anything that they were already engaged with. So you can't like wrap up the last warrior and be like, aha, you can't reanimate. Like, no, you can still just bring guys back.
So I'm curious as to like when the Necron rules start coming out, especially with the new RP rules. I wonder how many people like with those Indominus boxes that GW is in the process of making right now and shipping out. I wonder how many people tried to renege on splitting the Necron half.
Right. Excellent.
Honestly, like I split my half with a friend of mine who has a whole Necron army, and I'm pretty sure he's crying tears of joy.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I think probably important to note: the Catacomb Command Barge, sort of a relic of, I don't know, some edition that I never played in. It just like didn't see play in 8th edition because it didn't do anything. It is now excellent. It is incredibly tough. With the new rules for quantum phasic shielding, is they have baked in transhuman physiology. You can't wound them on a 1, 2, or a 3, and they have a 5-up invulnerable save. And this guy's -1 damage taken, and he's good at shooting. The voltaic staff is 4 shots at 5 neg 2/2, 6 to hit double hit, and he has a Gauss cannon, which is 3 shots at 6 neg 3 D3, and he's a vehicle, so there's no penalties for moving and shooting it. So he hits ridiculously hard. What kind of secondaries are you looking to take with this list?
So honestly, like one, anything killy, and 2, like while with the last list, the Deathwing list, I didn't want to take any secondaries where I have to just like sit a unit on an objective and like do an action for a whole turn and hope that I don't get shot at the board. I'm so comfortable doing that with just like one of these units of warriors, just because if you're devoting that much firepower to blow me off of that thing so I can't complete my objective and, you know, score those points the next turn, to me, that feels like a win, because it means you're not shooting at Big Daddy Silent King, and you're not shooting at my mini croissant, and you're not shooting at Caesaris, and you're not shooting at the Praetorians.
Yeah, the Necron specific one, the Necron specific secondary, where you get 3 points every time a noble kills someone, is probably also like incredible on this list.
Yeah, so like as generally speaking, like I'm always against picking secondaries where you're handing some sort of agency to your opponent and influencing how you can score points. But with Necron warriors and reanimation protocols being what they are, yeah, like if you could jam a Cryptek in here too, that'd be great.
Is that agency though? Because like your Catacomb Command Barge has like 7 multi AP high strength multi damage shots. Caesaric has 2 flat 6 damage like annihilation rays, and also is like the equivalent of like a smash captain and 2 lieutenants in melee. Like if you just push these things down the table, like the way they prevent you from scoring that secondary is by just like not playing the game, and that's also
no. I mean, I'm talking about giving them agency. Like if I take investigate sites and I got a unit of whatever, like no matter what armor it is, and I got to be within 6 inches of the center and do an action, and it takes me until the next command phase to score. I'm handing you agency on your turn because you can just shoot whatever you can at that to prevent me from scoring. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying agency, as opposed to something like engage in all fronts, where if I just position my dudes right, I score 3 points or 2 points, and you can do nothing to stop me.
Yeah, I see this list taking the my nobles want to kill things pretty often. It's 5 units, but they don't have to kill the whole thing by themselves, just to finish it off with that much shooting on both of them, and you know the really good melee on them. I think you just do it. Also of note, the Silent King is full rerolls to hit in shooting for Praetorians and Core. So those like Gauss Reaper guys can just advance and shoot. And they're still hitting on 3s, rerolling everything because they're going to get My Will Be Done, because there's 3 My Will Be Dones in this list.
Yep.
The Silent King does 2, and the Catacomb does 1.
That's painful to listen to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to any of it.
The other thing is, I think Luminous Xeris is going to show up in a lot of lists. So he's literally the point cost of 2 Technomancers put together. And he does the thing of 2 Technomancers. You can pick 2 units and reanimate D3 guys in each of them. But he also has a D3 shot las cannon and has the Fabius Bile, like roll a D3, and it's +1 strength, +1 attack, or +1 toughness for a unit. And And normally +1 attack on warriors would be bad, except that the Silent King gives them full rerolls to wounds. So like 20 guys with 2 attacks and reroll their wound rolls is like also perfectly acceptable. There's just a lot of really scary things happening in this list.
Yeah, I think one of the scary things too about this list is not even like from a rules perspective is you only really need if you're already a Necron player, you already have Caesaris, if not the new one, then the old one. You already have the Command Barge. You probably already have a Ghost Arc or something, or the other version of that you can just say, hey, this is a Ghost Arc this game.
Yeah, Chris, we lost the recording, just so you know.
Did we? Oh, God damn it. Hold on one sec. Stupid thing.
+1 strength, +1 toughness, +1 ballistic skill. Gotcha. Okay.
Now recording.
There we go. If you're so like I was saying, if you're a Necron player, you've already got a lot of this stuff. You obviously you don't have the SK, and you don't have the warriors with the Gauss Reapers, but you get 2 copies of Indomitus. There's your 40 Gauss Reapers right there. Like this, it doesn't take a lot to get this list into play. It's not like you're building an army out of like all assault intercessors that need and outriders that need to be bought, painted, assembled, all of that. An existing Necron player is gonna have like almost all this shit already.
Yeah. Yep. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's go on. Let's this list entitled Total Destruction. I wonder what it does.
All right. So this is also a custom dynasty. This dynasty, everybody has objective secured and a 6-inch scout move. You're going to see that one a lot because it's really good. I don't know how else to put it. This list also featuring a Catacomb Command Barge, although this Catacomb Command Barge is loaded out a little bit differently. It's also taking the Gauss Cannon, but instead of the Staff of Light, it's actually taking a War Scythe and upgrading it to the Relic Scythe, which names escapes me at this exact moment. And it has the same Warlord trait, -1 damage taken. The Relic Scythe is strength +2, so that brings up to strength 7, AP 4, flat 3 damage, and prevents any rules that would allow you to ignore wounds it deals. So it goes through Feel No Pains, and it also goes through wound caps. GW released an official FAQ that rules that read like that go through things that prevent models from taking X number of wounds in a phase. So if you roll 9 damage against Gaz, he just takes it. He's not ignoring it. It just goes through. Is also our next HQ is a Scorpic Lord. This is the Indomitus Necron Lord guy. He's got extra roller trait, Honorable Combatant. So if he makes all his attacks against a character, he gets 2 extra attacks. Given that he has AP 4, 3 damage Thunderhammer, pretty good to have. And then our last HQ slot, this is a neat thing that Cryptex can do now, is if you bring 2 Cryptex in the in a detachment with a Noble, which is the Catacomb Command Barge, they can both go into the same detachment slot, or technically one of them doesn't take up a slot. So this list has 2 Chronomancers with Eldritch Lances. Unlike all the other Cryptex, which have like these random like 3-shot assault, 3 weapons like strength 5, Chronomancers actually just have a cannon. It's 18 inches, strength 8, AP 4, damage D3 +3. Also, they're one of the few Necron units that can just buff any Necron model. At the beginning of your command phase, you pick a unit within 9 inches. That unit gets a 5-up invulnerable save and re-rolls all charge rolls. So if you're going to be a melee list, that's pretty good. For troops, it's just 3 times 5 Gauss Immortals. This is because that's cheap and we're not really focused there, especially because everything already has OBSEC anyway. For elites, 3 maxed size units of Scorpic Destroyers, 1 unit of Cryptothralls, 2 units of Plasma Sights, and the Shard of the Nightbringer. This is where like the whole army is. So Scorpic Destroyers are ridiculous. The unit was like pretty good in Indominus, not incredible, like pretty good. And then in the Codex, they went down 5 points each and picked up a stratagem to be -1 to be wounded for 1 command point in any phase. And their base toughness is 5.
Jesus.
Which means bolters and lasguns wound them on 6s. All the new like heavy intercessor weapons wound them on 5s. Even heavy weapons are only wounding them on 4s. You'd be strength 10 before you wound them on 3s.
Wow.
And you can never. And in melee, they're complete blenders. They have huge amounts of attacks. 2 of them have an AP 4 Thunderhammer, and they're 3 attacks each base. They're all at least strength 5 or 6 weapons. The other weapon is like a chainsword, gets extra attacks. but has AP2 and multiple damage. The unit is incredibly choppy in melee. And they have built-in reroll ones to hit, and if they're near the Scorpic Lord, they also reroll ones to wound. They're ridiculously durable. Toughness 5. Their reanimation protocols aren't as consistent because they're multi-wounds. You have to roll equal to the full wound of one guy from one shooting attack, so that doesn't happen too often. But like I said, you give them 5 up invulnerable saves, which kind of goes a long way. Reroll charge rolls, and they get into something they're going to kill a lot of it. And then because of your dynasty, they have obsec. So even if you don't kill the unit, you only have to get them lower than you, and then you have your obsec. Also of note, once per game, because we have that Catacomb Command Barge, and he did bring a Resurrection Orb, he can try to reanimate a unit. The other list actually, I think, also had a Resurrection Orb on the Catacomb Command Barge based on its point cost. So he can try to reanimate one of these units. If they only have like 1 or 2 guys left, he can try and send probably like 2 of them back up. The Plasma Sights have an ability that they pick a destroyer, they roll a d6 on a 1, they kill just that destroyer unit, or destroyer model rather, but then the whole unit gets +1 attack and +1 strength until the end of your turn. So if the Scorpion destroyers weren't killy enough, now they're killier. And then we have the Nightbringer. So all the Satan got a new rule where they have a 4 up invulnerable save and they cannot lose more than 3 wounds per phase. That wasn't good enough, so then they all got better at melee, and all the Satan powers got buffed to do even more damage, and all the named Satan got a unique Satan power. The Nightbringer is very easily the winner of the 3 Satan. The other 2 are fine. I actually think the Void Dragon right now is kind of unplayable because anything he can do, the Nightbringer can do better. They're all the exact same point cost. So the Nightbringer in melee has a rule that any wounds he does in melee cannot have wound prevention rules used against them, just like the Relic Scythe. So no feel, no pains, no wound caps. And he has 2 different profiles on his scythe because he's got a big scythe. He's got a Reaping Blow, which is 12 attacks at 7 neg 3 1 damage. And then he has I think it's called like a Slaying Blow, which is 6 attacks at strength 14 AP 4 D6 damage, and it ignores invulnerable saves.
Fuck.
Which is ridiculous.
That's wow.
He walks up to literally anything other than a knight and just kills it in one shot. And he doesn't literally kill the knight in one shot, but he gets pretty close. You don't get to take invulnerable saves. He's AP 4, so you also don't take armor saves. Then you don't get to take feel no pains, and then you just die. He one-shots Gilman, like not even close. He one-shots Gaz, not even close. I actually think the most important thing is he kills other Satan in one shot, and we're going to be seeing Satan. On his unique power, also very good, is he picks a unit, any unit. This could include characters within, I think it's 24. Rolls 3d6. Every 4 up does d3 mortal wounds. So it's very easy for him to just pop characters. And then his other power is rolls a d6. On a 3 to 5, it does d3 mortal wounds. Flat 3 mortal wounds. And on a 6, it does d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. Yeah, he does both these powers.
So you're going to start seeing games where it used to be who can kill who's Castellan first. It's going to be who can kill each other's Catan first now.
Yeah, and the big thing with this Catan is that they don't get character protection. They're characters with 9 wounds, but they explicitly don't get character protection. So you can always shoot at them, take 3 wounds off a turn. You're like, all right, it takes 3 turns to kill them. No, they have living metal. They regenerate wounds every turn. You will never get through them by just shooting at them. Nope. He goes, all right, we do 3 damage. He's down to 6. Then he goes to 7. We do 3 more. He goes down to 4. Then he's up. Then he goes to 5. We shoot. He goes down to 2. Then he hides behind a building, comes out of it with 4 because he's not a big model. So he can hide behind a building very easily. Chances are you don't get to shoot him on turn 1, which means that if you don't shoot him on turn 1, you're just actually not killing him in a 5-turn game without finding more damage on him in some other phase, which means you're getting close, which means you're like opening yourself up to some really horrifying things happening in melee. Because the other Satan can pay 2 command points to ignore invulnerable saves, but he doesn't need to do it. You just don't get them. He just kills you. The model is insane. It's one of the scariest, killiest things. It's going to be a complete nightmare to play against.
It is going to fly too close to the sun.
It's going to be very tricky to figure out how to play against. It is 350 points. I actually don't know if it's flying too close to the sun. Like it needs to get nerfed. It is a huge chunk of your army to bring this thing. Like
yeah.
You're like, all right, I can bring this thing or like a Knight Gallant.
350 is still pricey though, but it's pricey, but at the same time, it still feels like a bit of a bargain. Like, if you told me that like it was 400 points, like I just gut feeling and be like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be super interested in the 400.
He's cheaper, like that's cheaper than Gulliman. It's cheaper than every other Lord of War.
Yeah, he has no rerolls though. Like he's just himself. He's not making anything around him better. He also doesn't get any bonuses. He doesn't have the dynasty keyword, so he can't pick up anything from anyone else in the army other than the reroll charge rolls from the chronomancers, which fine, I guess. So yeah, he is very good. I don't know how interested we're going to be in them if he gets too much more expensive. I do think that GW needs to rebalance the 3 Satan shards against each other, or the 4 Satan shards against each other. There's a generic one as well. Because right now you only get to bring 1 per detachment, which is functionally 1 per army, especially with how expensive they are. It's hard to make arguments for the other ones. There's arguments for the Deceiver because he lets you redeploy. But yeah, Nightbringer is just insane. All right, I'm going to move on because I could talk about how good the Nightbringer is forever. The last thing in this army, very simple, is 6 Ophidian Destroyers. Ophidian Destroyers are everything a Scorpion Destroyer is, with 1 less strength and 1 less toughness, except that they also get 2 extra attacks per model with an AP1 Chainsword, and they naturally deep strike. They're pretty good. Oh, and they move 10 inches too. So they're going to pop up probably behind a building. Or you might even start them on the table. If there's like a building you think you can get
with 10-inch move, you can very easily start them on the table.
Yeah, with the 10-inch move.
Yeah, and also keep in mind the whole list, except for the Satan Shard, scout moves 6 inches at the beginning of the game. So you can, if you're near nearish buildings, and your opponent's like, I'm going to go first, you just quick, everyone hide, and then you get to hide your whole army before your opponent goes. Because there's not actually a ton of units in this army. You're pretty wounds dense. You have lots of wounds. You're very tough, but there's actually not that many guys because the units tend to be pretty big.
Yep.
I think that this is a very killy list, but then everything is OPSEC. So you're also playing the mission great.
Yeah, I think as strong as Necrons or overpowered as they might come off as, I'm very happy for the health of the game that a Xenos faction is basically picking up the slack where, Tau just completely dropped the ball at the start of the edition.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think they're quite where Space Marines are, but they can play the same game that Space Marines are playing, which is good.
And I think they can beat Space Marines.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it consistently. I think the Space Marines are still the stronger book, but they definitely are. They have a game. Like you can have a real game plan against Space Marines.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a 10-0, matchup where Space Marines versus literally everything else right now. It's, Space Marines versus Necrons. It's probably like a 6-4 matchup.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got one more list we want to get through, I think.
All right, let's step on it because my wife just texted me and said that there's an apple tart downstairs.
All right, I'll try and go quick, but this list, unlike the other one before it, is not particularly trying to play the mission. It's just trying to make your opponent feel bad. That's not true. It's trying to kill your opponent off the table. So we have a battalion. It's a Sautek battalion, which is kind of crazy that we haven't talked about a Sautek list yet because Sautek previously was just
Sautek was the only option before.
It's the only option. And some of the characters in Sautek got better. One of the characters in Sautek who we're not even bringing, for the virtue of putting him in your army, he just can Agents of Vect for free once per game.
What?
Yeah, he's 110 points. He's an overlord, and he says once per game, Agents of Vect. And you don't roll dice. You don't roll dice. It just happens. And we're not bringing him because there were better things to do. That's where we're at with this codex. All right. Anyway, Imitek the Storlord is our warlord. He's got hyperlogical strategist, so that's a 5-up, feel no pain for our command points, basically. We have a Technomancer with the Veil of Darkness, and a Canoptic Cloak, so he can heal vehicles. We have 19 warriors because of points. Then we have 2 units of Cryptothralls, and the Nightbringer for all of the reasons we already talked about. And then 2 units of Scarabs. One note with the elites, that is 3 elite choices, but because there's a Technomancer in the list, one of the Cryptothralls doesn't take up a slot. And then we have a super heavy auxiliary detachment with a Tesseract Vault, which are ridiculous now. They have 2-up armor instead of 3-up. They went down to 500 points. And all of the powers got better, and then all the powers got even more push if they're coming from a Tesseract Vault. So to give you an example, Sky of Falling Stars is you pick 3 units within 24, you roll a d6. If you roll a 1 to 5 and that is less than the number of models in the unit, they take d3 mortal wounds. If it was a Tesseract Vault doing the power, it's flat 3. So the Tesseract Vault rolls 3d6. If they roll 1 to 5s and all of them, they just do 9 mortal wounds. If your units are 6+ people. And then like and the other power that I see them using a lot, Transdimensional Thunderbolt, is they pick a target. They roll a within 24 on a D. They roll a D6. On a 4-up, that target takes D3 mortal wounds. And then regardless if that target took wounds, every model within 3 inches or every unit within 3 inches, they roll a D6. On a 4-up, they do 1 mortal wound to that unit. If it's a Tesseract Vault, instead it's a 6-inch bubble. And then the last attachment in this list is another super heavy auxiliary attachment with a second Tesseract Vault in it. Because I'm a complete monster. This list is actually doing a very similar thing. Like at first, it's kind of a head scratcher. But what this list is actually doing, it's doing the Orc Burner Bomber thing, but even better than the Orc Burner Bomber thing. You're gonna look at an enemy unit, and because of the way Satan powers work, you need to go through all 6 Satan powers before you can put a duplicate Satan power in your list. But because Tesseract Vaults know 4 each, that's 2 of them. You can pick 2 of the powers and put them on both vaults. And then for 1 command point, you can also you can like forget a power, learn a power, like Thousand Suns can do. So on turn 1, all 3 of the Satan shards can throw a Transdimensional Thunderbolt at the same target, which means that target is taking on average 2d3 mortal wounds, and then you're rolling a d6 for everything within, 3d6 for everything within 3 inches, and then 2d6 for everything within 6 inches, and every 4-up does a mortal wound. Imhotep has an ability once per game that's literally just Transdimensional Thunderbolt from a Satan Vault. It's d3 mortal wounds and a 4-up, and then he rolls a d6 for everything within 6 inches, and every 4-up does a mortal wound. And then the Tesseract Vaults get to shoot, and they have Tesla weapons. So if they shoot Tesla at that unit, you can pop the Tesla strat, which is you roll a d6 for everything within 6 inches of your target, and every 4-up, or 3 inches of your target, every 4-up does a mortal wound. So your opponent, if they group too closely, you're rolling 5d6 against every unit within 3 inches of your primary target, and every 4-up does a mortal wound. The primary unit is also just taking like 10-ish mortal wounds, so it's gone. Then every vault has 16 Tesla shots and 4 more powers that we haven't cast yet, plus the Nightbringer's unique power.
Yeah, so
this list
like
is
that, so
blowing people off the table.
Wow.
So that Thousand Suns like mortal wound, like AOE blast, like game plan from Ritual of the Damned. This is that, but the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD remix version of that, and also it's not dependent on you making your casts or not being denied.
Yeah, it's also like all right, like it's unlike the Burner Bomber, which like all right, you just like shoot it down if you go first. So it's kind of like a little dependent. Like what happens if this list goes second? Well, your opponent needs to dig through 30 wounds of toughness 7 with a 4-up invulnerable save to stop the Tesseract Vault, which is like probably not happening. And then the other thing
it
is
could
the
happen,
Nightbringer,
but you have 2 of them.
Hide. And then like that's most of the list. The other thing that this list is doing is your 20 warriors, you're not like playing with them. Turn 1, you're going to Veil of Darkness them right in front of your opponent just to movement block them. You're just going to string them out as best you can with the new coherency rules and just lock your opponent in their command zone for a turn. And that's probably enough to just like let the Tesseract Vaults do their thing for 2 turns, and then the game might just be over. Yeah, this list is like disgusting. Like disgusting.
This sounds like a list on how to lose friends and alienate people.
Yeah, this is like really scary stuff. A couple things you might switch around. The Nightbringer might want to be the Deceiver, so that you can redeploy things after you know who's going to go first, because he can redeploy things into Deep Strike. So you can redeploy. You can exactly spend 5 command points and put 2 Tesseract Vaults in Deep Strike, because that's exactly 1,000 points. Now, a note with the Tesseract Vaults, they are too big to fit in the Deep Strike zone because they picked up a new rule where they measure from the model, not from the base. Which also means there's a couple of deployment zones they don't fit in, but we'll talk about that in a second. But if they Deep Strike you, or rather outflank, and you don't fit, the rule is that you cannot move, charge, advance, shoot, pile in, attack, or cast psychic powers. But you can still do Satan powers, so it's okay.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know what a Tesseract Vault looks like, imagine 2 Helldrakes like looking at each other. Yeah.
They're about 10 inches. They're just over 10 inches wide. on one of their dimensions, which means that the 10-inch up deployment zone, they don't fit in it. And as of now, that means if you put them on the table, they actually lose their first movement phase, which I think is not something GW intended to do. If they keep that, this list is probably dead on arrival, which is probably fine. But I don't think GW's intention was for Tesseract Vaults to just not be playable because of one mission. Yeah, this list just is horrifying to me. I'm really excited to play with it.
Do you have Tesseract Vaults?
Oh goodness, no. I'm definitely looking at picking them up though. Unfortunately, they're sold out right now, so you guys have some breathing room for now. Obviously, this is only for like competitive events because this is not a fun experience to play against. The mortal wound output on this list is completely ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah,
and I think the meta's kind of just moved away from things that can deal with Tesseract Vaults. Knights are not in the current meta, and Knights are the thing that pushed Tesseract Vaults out last time. Most lists just don't have the long range firepower to put up with a Tesseract Vault. They're so tanky. Also of note, that Technomancer can heal 1 D3 wounds a turn, and they heal 1 per turn, and it's just so much going on. They're really, really good.
Yeah, so like Eradicators can like one turn a night, but again, like you're not taking out 2 Tesseract Vaults with 6 Eradicators. No. You're good chance you don't take out 1.
Yeah. The other thing is they explode unbelievably hard, which can be a little awkward actually. It's one of the things I like about this list is you have those Cryptothalls and the Scarabs, and their goal is just to like fly out. Scarabs are really fast, move 10 inches. The whole point of those things are to do actions for secondaries and just to fly out and screen things out. So like those Scarabs are just gonna like each squad's just gonna like go over to a corner and just like keep Eradicators from being able to double tap the vaults as best they can.
Yeah. Dio Fuda in the chat is saying that there's a distinct lack of monoliths in these lists, and
yeah,
I can't say that you're wrong. There is a distinct lack of monoliths, and I kind of want to see them make a resurrection here, because I remember back when I first started playing, when they first got their decks, like monoliths were like the thing. That and like just a shit ton of warriors surrounding one dude with the Orb of Resurrection.
Yeah, unfortunately they went to Lord of War, but didn't get significantly better. So I just don't like, and also anything a monolith can do, a Night Scythe can do better now, which is just all awkward. Like if you're looking for the damage output, obelisks are just a monolith that do damage in shooting, and if you're looking for like a way of redeploying your troops, and Night Scythe just does it so much better than a monolith. Yeah, it costs command points for the Night Scythe to do it, but the joke is that a monolith's a Lord of War, so it costs command points to put the monolith in your army. So just may as well have the supersonic flyer be the thing that can redeploy your troops at a moment's notice.
Yep.
It's really unfortunate. It's a cool model. GW like made a sweet new one and then relegated to unplayability immediately.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm very excited for this book. I'm very excited for all of the people that stuck through Necron since 7th edition.
Yeah, I'm a monster wagon hopper. I had a little Necron collection, but it's getting a lot bigger very quickly.
Yeah. So I think good things are coming. If this is what we can expect to see from GW, I think. What is the next Xenos Codex that they said they were doing? Drakari?
Yeah, I don't know. Their release schedule is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I know they got to get like the Space Marine supplements out of the way because, of course, they fucking do. But
yeah.
You know, well, I'm excited to, as somebody who started in 8th edition with Death Guard, I'm excited for the Death Guard Codex to come out. If this is, a sign of things to come, you know, like I get it. Like this change from 7th to 8th was a pretty significant, fundamental change, and now that 9th is more of an iterative like change. I feel like GW is starting to hit their stride in terms of rules writing. That being said, they're still doing like really fucking dumb stuff, like doing Control F on flamers to make the 12-inch range and then skipping over warp flamers. But
and orc flamers, which are just flamers, but they're called scorches. Yep.
And burnas. I actually kind of like low-key kind of like GW's special brand of incompetence because it's kind of endearing.
Yeah, it is. Like I saw the Tau change, like, all right, flamers for 12 inches. What did your fusion guns get? Nothing, because they're called fusion guns and not melta guns. Really? Like, come on.
I mean, this was definitely relegated to some poor intern.
Yeah, for sure. And they're like, I don't know if I have the authority.
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing when all of the other models got like their basic weapons cost like baked into the model. except Warp Talons.
Yeah, although in fairness, lightning claws are now +1 attack per claw, so warp talons are like inching closer to playable.
Yes, but I did find a new use for my 10 Night Lords Warp Talons, and that's proxying them as White Scar's Vanguard vets.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this, but any White Scars unit where every guy has 2 lightning claws is horrifying because they're all 4 or 5 attacks at damage 2 because you did the new stratagem where you can just pick a unit and put it in all the doctrines on turn 1. So it's just like,
Yeah,
turn 1, like 50 attacks at damage 2, rerolling all my wound rolls. Like,
yeah, this is I 1000% intend on like buying a box of Vanguard vets so I actually have them, but you running a 5-man at least of everybody with lightning claws, you know, maybe throwing in a couple of like 2 storm shields in there. And then just starting them on the table. Yeah, they can deep strike, but like they have 12-inch move, they fly, they can advance and charge. I have a 3d6 drop the lowest charge available to me. And then, yeah, they're just at -3, rerolling everything to wounds and doing 2 damage a pop. And I think it's like 25 attacks or something dumb like that.
Yeah. I think we could probably talk these lists and these changes to death. But
I got an apple tart
we wanted to do, and there's apple in Chris's near future. So that's everything I had to say. Are you guys all set?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, thank you very much for listening to this week's show. You know, I'm sorry for being off the last couple of weeks, but you know, I had some family stuff going on, and then I had to spend an hour in an uncomfortable magnetic metal tube last week during the show time.
All's fun.
Yeah, getting surgery on Tuesday. I would like to thank our contributors for this week's show, Benjamin Rubenstein and Omar Q.